Parliament House.
Housing very much front and centre this morning, so let's bring in the Federal Opposition's Shadow Housing Minister Michael Sukkar to talk about the Opposition's plan unveiled over the weekend. Good morning to you, Michael. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be with you.
So $5 billion if the Coalition's elected on infrastructure for potential housing developments. We're talking sewage, water, power. How would that work in practice?
So in practice, we would work with local governments, any other consortia that were involved with the development of these sorts of big tracts of land and greenfield estates. We know from hundreds of meetings we've had with councils, Michael, that the biggest barrier to their approvals is this critical infrastructure. It's not the most exciting in the world. We're talking sewerage, we're talking telecommunications, we're talking access roads. But in essence, to make a housing project work, you need to get water in, sewerage out, people in via vehicles, people out. I was out yesterday in Drouin just with an example project, a $4.2 million upgrade to a road that would unlock 5,000 new homes, according to Baw Baw Shire Council. There are hundreds of these projects around the country, and a really practical way to make sure that we can elevate and unlock 500,000 new homes.
But how can you guarantee that? I mean, where does the money go? Where does the $5 billion go? Is it to developers? Is it to councils to fast-track this sort of stuff?
So typically it would be councils who are the people who undertake the work. So in yesterday's example that I just spoke about, the money, the $4.2 million, would go to Baw Baw Shire Council.
Yep.
And they would contract, and they've told me that they could start the work immediately. They'd contract the civil contractors to upgrade the road. That would then allow them to not only approve 5,000 new homes, but approve a new school, approve a new little shopping strip. So this is catalyst infrastructure that has not been funded to the level it should be in recent years, and that's why there's 500,000 homes that can be unlocked pretty quickly.
To that point, the government says you're simply copying their policy. They've put down, according to the government, $1.5 billion doing just this. Are you copying what Labor's doing?
Well, given that that's the greatest argument they can make against it, I think shows how much widespread support there is for this.
Or imitation's best form of flattery, could be argued for the Coalition.
Well, their $500 million, not 1.5, their $500 million program at the moment, the first round of it, has been funding bureaucrats. It's been funding increasing the number of planners in local councils, been funding planning and scoping studies and feasibility studies. That's not infrastructure. So if they want to claim that's infrastructure, they're entitled to. Our fund will be limited to pipes, to bitumen, to concrete, the things that actually get houses moving, not the increase to the bureaucracy that the Labor government's claiming is an infrastructure fund. It's not.
What do you make of the Business Council's blueprint this morning? $10 billion to do pretty much what you're wanting to do, what the government's wanting to do, fast-track housing developments so more Australians get a foothold into the property market? Well,
it's pretty damning. The Business Council has again today highlighted that Labor's promise of 1.2 million homes is not worth the paper it's written on. In fact, most industry bodies believe that they'll fall, say, 300,000-400,000 homes short, and the BCA confirms that today. So it's an indictment on what Labor's doing. There's a lot in what the BCA has outlined today that we think has a lot of merit and is very worthy. Some of it we may not agree with, but we'll work through it. I commend them for the work they've done, because what they've done is highlight that we are in the midst of a housing crisis that's, to be frank, getting worse under Labor, not getting better.
Now, the Victorian government has unveiled a plan over the weekend to build apartment towers around transport hubs in Melbourne. You represent a Melbourne seat. We had the Premier Jacinta Allen on the show earlier saying it's time to break up the status quo. Yes, there'll be opposition, but governments need to do this, be bold, to ensure the housing crisis is tackled. What do you make of that plan?
Well, I don't think you have to accept that there'll be opposition. I think most Australians and Victorians are pretty fair-minded and understand that you need to increase density where it's appropriate to do so. I think people get very angry when they get up and read on the front page of the newspaper that a 20-storey tower is all of a sudden going up next door to them with no consultation.
But there is consultation to come, according to the Premier.
Well, you don't announce it on the front page of the paper and then say we'll consult with you. Consultation is saying we will bring the community with us in the lead up to an announcement, not make the announcement and then consult afterwards. So 20-storey towers in 50 or 60 local suburbs in our area, I think without that consultation and that social licence, and without the promise of investments of additional infrastructure, because in the end, our suburbs are already buckling under the pressure.
But the infrastructure's there already, is the argument, in these inner city areas versus on the outskirts of the city.
If you're in an area where your infrastructure is buckling, and there'll be people sitting in traffic right now not feeling as though their infrastructure is there, unless you are willing to make those investments, you can't just dump tens of thousands more people into an area without those investments and without that consultation. So I think this is more of a media strategy than a housing strategy from the state Labor government, which is why, quite frankly, they've woefully missed every housing target they've put in place, because it's all media not doing the hard work.
Jacinta Allen told me that NIMBYism could be seen as one way of describing the backlash to the plan. Does she have a point?
Well, I think she's being very offensive to Victorians there. I think Victorians are fair-minded. In my electorate, we've got areas and pockets where people are very happy to see density. And where you do density correctly, it means you don't have 20-storey towers in leafy suburbs where people have moved there for a reason. So I think if you consult with people, I think Victorians are fair-minded. I don't think it's fair to offend them by calling them NIMBYs. And with that consultation and social licence, you can get there. But our plan, our housing infrastructure program, will unlock 500,000 new homes, and we think would be largely supported from the communities that would be beneficiaries of that.
Michael Sukkot, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Michael Sukkot there, the Shadow Housing Minister.